Key points. 1. The critical link between economy and education. Economy as the foundation. Strong economies are the backbone of successful reforms in any sector, including education. Knowledge workers. In today's world, economies rely on skilled and innovative workers. 2. Comparing Pakistan with its neighbors. India. Software exports in FY 2024 reached $205.2 billion, with major markets in the US and Europe. Overall exports are projected to exceed $800 billion. A key factor is the alignment of education with economic needs. Iran. Exports, despite sanctions, have reached $98.2 billion. Transitioning from oil to consumer goods and advanced technologies like UAVs showcases diversification and innovation. Pakistan lags significantly in exports and lacks synergy between education and economic demands. Intellectual contributions, such as research, are not translating into tangible economic benefits. 3. Issues in Pakistan's higher education system. Focus on publications. Research publications are prioritized over practical outcomes. Financial incentives for faculty lead to a numbers game in publications without real-world application. Disconnect with industry. Universities neglect collaborations with local industries. MS and PhD research projects often lack relevance to the local economic landscape. Skills gap. Graduates are not trained for customer service or foreign client communication. Lack of technical and professional qualifications limits their employability. 4. Potential solutions. University-industry collaboration. Universities must work closely with local industries, particularly in high-potential areas like the cottage industry and dairy production. This would create jobs, offer financial incentives to students, and build university reputations in specific domains. Focus on value addition. Value-added exports, such as processed dairy products, can enhance economic growth without requiring expensive technology. Professional programs. Colleges offering associate degree programs in fields like computer science, software engineering, and animation should prepare students for freelance or global employment opportunities. Customer service training. Equip graduates with communication and language skills to serve international clients effectively. Highlight the importance of customer service, a norm in global markets. 5. Broader vision. Cultural shift in academia. Regulators should incentivize industry engagement and practical research skills. Universities must emulate successful models like Stanford, Technology, or UC Davis, Agriculture, to create specialized hubs of innovation. Long-term commitment. Addressing unemployment and export deficits requires aligning academic focus with economic priorities. The education sector must play an active role in turning around Pakistan's economic fortunes. Conclusion. Pakistan's higher education institutions must prioritize market relevance, industry collaboration, and skill development to create a workforce that aligns with economic demands. By fostering innovation, focusing on value-added exports, and preparing graduates for global markets, the country can unlock its potential and compete with its neighbors in the global economy. The article highlights the disconnect between Pakistan's higher education system and its economy, emphasizing the need for universities to collaborate with local industries and focus on producing market-ready graduates. By prioritizing practical, industry-relevant education and fostering value-added industries, Pakistan can boost exports and address unemployment, aligning its economic trajectory with successful examples like India and Iran.
Key points.
1. Limited impact of school closures on smog and health. Children's exposure to smog. Closing schools doesn't reduce exposure for children living in poorly insulated homes without air purifiers. Many children, especially those from underprivileged backgrounds, do not stay indoors when schools are closed. Learning losses. Online education, proposed as an alternative during closures, is ineffective for most students due to lack of internet access, devices, or conducive home environments. The experience during COVID-19 showed that such measures disproportionately harm children in under-resourced schools. 2. Development model and its consequences. Focus on road infrastructure. Lahore's development has centered on building roads, underpasses, and overpasses, celebrated as achievements while neglecting investments in public transport, education, and healthcare. The absence of large public hospitals since Jinnah Hospital reflects misplaced priorities despite Lahore's growing population. Traffic and pollution. School-related traffic contributes significantly to pollution due to the lack of public transport and distant schools. Peak traffic hours align with school start and end times, not office hours, highlighting the impact of school commutes. 3. Structural inequities in development policies. Beneficiaries of infrastructure development. Widened roads and transport policies benefit car owners, leaving pedestrians and the poor at a disadvantage. Limited investment in public education and health forces the underprivileged to rely on inadequate government services, while the wealthy turn to private schools and hospitals. Environmental costs. Lahore's persistent smog is a direct result of car-centric urban planning and insufficient public transport. Current policies incentivizing hybrid and electric vehicles fail to address structural issues and continue to favor the affluent. 4. Proposed solutions. Invest in public transport. Develop a robust public transport system, including buses and trains, to reduce traffic congestion and pollution. Enhance accessibility to schools through local public transit options. Revamp public education. Build high-quality public schools in all parts of the city to minimize long commutes for children. Improve infrastructure and resources in public schools to ensure equitable education opportunities. Reevaluate urban development. Shift focus from car-centric urban planning to sustainable development that benefits all socioeconomic groups. Implement policies to restrict private transport use and promote pedestrian-friendly cities. Crux. The article critiques Punjab's development model, which prioritizes road infrastructure over essential sectors like education and public transport, exacerbating smog and pollution. School closures due to smog do little to mitigate exposure for children and result in significant learning losses. The root of the problem lies in the lack of public transport, poor urban planning, and inequitable policies that favor the affluent, leaving the majority to bear the consequences of environmental degradation. Key points. 1. Escalating violence in KP. Increase in militant activity. Target killings and attacks against civilians, political workers, and security personnel are frequent, particularly in Bannu, Waziristan, and Kurum. Sectarian tensions are stoked, with recent incidents such as a bus attack near Parakiner causing over 30 deaths. Lack of accountability. Neither the provincial government led by PTI nor federal leaders provide strategies or actionable plans to control violence. Condemnations of terrorism lack acknowledgement of the state's prior support for militant groups like the Taliban in Kabul. 2. Root causes of militancy's resurgence. Economic interests. Militants are deeply involved in border trade, smuggling, extortion, and the exploitation of natural resources, pine nuts, timber, minerals. Property disputes in tribal districts are leveraged to fuel sectarian violence. Geopolitical dynamics. External players like the US, Gulf states, and China influence violence through their interests in controlling trade and resources. Pakistan's emphasis on national security overshadows the underlying socioeconomic and geopolitical motivations. 3. Structural and political failures. Militarized political system. The state's militarized structure enables the rise of militant groups and religious right-wing power. Economic flows and social control are disguised under the rhetoric of national security. Ineffective governance. Mainstream parties, PMLN and PPP, prioritize appeasing power brokers, both domestically and internationally, over addressing systemic issues. PTI's anti-establishment rhetoric lacks substantive action, despite KP's chief minister hailing from DI-Con, a hub of recent violence. 4. The path forward. Structural reforms. Redistribute economic resources equitably to reduce reliance on illicit trades and address poverty in tribal areas. Dismantle the establishment-centric political structure to empower democratic institutions. Non-aligned foreign policy. Shift from geopolitical alliances to a cooperative regional approach, prioritizing peace and mutual development with neighbors. Comprehensive peace program. Develop a sustainable peace strategy, focused on socio-economic upliftment and reducing militarization. Engage local communities in governance and resource management to counteract militant influence. Crux. The resurgence of militancy and violence in KP is rooted in the entrenched economic interests of militants, geopolitical dynamics, and Pakistan's militarized political structure. The lack of meaningful action by both federal and provincial governments highlights systemic failures. Addressing this crisis requires dismantling establishment-centric politics, economic redistribution, and adopting a non-aligned foreign policy to ensure lasting peace and stability. Relevance of Iqbal's philosophy. Misinterpretations addressed. Iqbal is often misunderstood as a radical promoting warfare, but his ideas focus on liberation from exploitation, colonialism, and imperialism through positive human action. His ideal individual is dynamic, informed, and committed to creating a just world. Manifesto for Peace. In his 1938 radio broadcast Brotherhood of Man, Iqbal presented a framework for global peace, placing him among prominent peace theorists of the 20th century. He criticized humanity's moral stagnation despite advancements in science and technology. 2. Iqbal's vision for positive peace. Difference between positive and negative peace. Negative peace, absence of war. Positive peace, presence of life-affirming values and activities, which is sustainable and necessary for global coexistence. Core philosophy. Man can be maintained on this earth only by honoring mankind. Education systems must teach respect and reverence for humanity to build a peaceful society. 3. Ideals of equality, freedom, and brotherhood. Brotherhood above divisions. True unity transcends race, nationality, color, or language, fostering global harmony. False ideologies like nationalism and imperialism hinder peace and must be dismantled. Criticism of divisive systems. Iqbal opposes ideologies that perpetuate exploitation, exclusion, or humiliation. Global peace requires embracing humanity as a family, beyond religious and cultural boundaries. 4. Call to action for global leaders. Addressing crimes against humanity. Urgent action is needed to stop injustices, particularly in Palestine and Kashmir, to prevent a potential World War III. Leaders must adopt values of dialogue, unity, and cooperation, moving away from indoctrination and racism. Humanistic education. Education systems should focus on cultivating respect for humanity and rejecting ideologies rooted in division and prejudice. 5. Iqbal's prayer for leaders. At the end of Brotherhood of Man, Iqbal prays for leaders to be granted the wisdom to cherish and honor humankind, emphasizing the moral responsibility of those in power. Key points. 1. The attack and context. Recent incident. A convoy of vehicles, primarily carrying members of the Shia community, was attacked in Lower Khurram, resulting in 38 fatalities. This is one of the most significant single mass casualty events in 2024. Volatile situation. Khurram faces a toxic mix of militancy, sectarianism, and tribal disputes, leading to frequent violence against both Shia and Sunni communities. A land dispute since July has claimed over 80 lives, exacerbating tensions. 2. State neglect and security failures. Ineffective response. The government's half-hearted attempts to resolve the region's issues have failed to provide safety and peace. Despite recent protests demanding secure roads, no substantial measures were taken, culminating in this tragedy. Politicking over security. Both the federal and KP governments are distracted by political wrangling, sidelining the urgent security needs of Khurram and the province. Security institutions have been unable to eliminate militants from the region, leaving the populace vulnerable. 3. Contributing factors. Geopolitical and sectarian dynamics. Khurram's proximity to Afghanistan, coupled with sectarian tensions and the proliferation of militant groups and heavy arms, makes it particularly sensitive. The state has neither de-weaponized the area nor resolved tribal disputes, allowing conflicts to spiral into communal violence. Potential for wider instability. If unchecked, the violence in Khurram could spread to neighboring districts and deepen sectarian divides across Pakistan. 4. Recommendations for action. Immediate measures. The perpetrators of the recent attack must be identified, captured, and prosecuted. The government and security agencies must collaborate to devise robust plans to ensure peace in Kurum. Community involvement. Ulama and tribal elders should mediate to prevent retaliatory violence and defuse tensions. Efforts to promote communal harmony and trust building are essential to long-term stability. Policy interventions. A multi-party conference on KP's law and order should be advanced and include actionable outcomes. The state must prioritize de-weaponization and the equitable resolution of disputes in Kurum. 5. Broader implications. Ignoring Kurum's plight risks broader instability, exploitation by vested interests, and potential communal discord nationwide. The state must fulfill its constitutional duty to ensure justice and protect the lives of vulnerable populations. The ongoing violence in Kurum Tribal District, particularly the sectarian attack on a convoy that left 38 dead, underscores the state's failure to address deep-rooted militancy, sectarian tensions, and tribal disputes. The government and security institutions must act urgently to restore order, bring perpetrators to justice, and prevent further communal discord. Key points. 1. Polio situation in 2024. Case statistics. Total cases, 50, Balochistan. 24, Sindh. 13, KP. 11, Punjab and Islamabad, 1 each. Positive environmental samples indicate the virus's continued spread, with 66% of samples in Sindh testing positive. Contrasting regional progress. Afghanistan reports fewer polio cases this year, spotlighting Pakistan's shortcomings. 2. Failures in the expanded program on immunization EPI. Early success and decline. Launched in 1978, EPI initially achieved significant progress but now struggles against mounting challenges. Key issues. Vaccine refusals. Over 43,000 in Sindh during October alone. Poor immunization rates. Only 69% of Sindh's under 5 population is fully immunized. Ineffectiveness of supplementary campaigns. Despite claimed coverage, the virus persists. 3. Obstacles to eradication. Vaccine hesitancy. Fear and misinformation persist, particularly in vulnerable communities. Public awareness campaigns remain insufficient. Governance and accountability. Lack of transparency. Billions in international aid demand an audit to ensure effective utilization. Administrative inefficiencies. Bureaucratic threats, such as dismissals of DCs, fail to address root causes. Polio worker challenges. Security threats and poor compensation undermine morale and outreach efforts. 4. Recommendations for improvement. Strengthen routine immunization. Revitalize EPI with a focus on consistent and comprehensive child immunization coverage. Public health campaigns. Engage clerics, community leaders, and influencers to dispel myths and encourage vaccination. Emphasize vaccine refusal as a public health risk, not just a personal choice. Polio worker support. Ensure protection, fair wages, and resources for frontline workers. Transparency and accountability. Conduct federal and provincial audits of polio funds to rebuild public trust and improve efficiency. 5. The bigger picture. Global comparison. Afghanistan's relative success underscores that eradication is achievable with strong commitment. Urgency of action. Without immediate reforms, Pakistan risks being the last stronghold of the disease, endangering not just its children but global eradication efforts. Crux. Pakistan's 50 polio cases in 2024 highlight the failure of eradication efforts despite extensive international funding and decades of vaccination programs. Persistent vaccine refusals, inadequate routine immunization, and questionable fund utilization demand urgent reforms, transparency, and public health awareness campaigns to protect children and achieve eradication. Key points. 1. Key features of the NEV policy. Goals for 2030. 30% of cars and 50% of motorcycles and three-wheelers sold to be electric-powered. Focus on reducing emissions and tackling smog for a cleaner environment. Economic impacts. Reduced oil imports. Lower reliance on fossil fuels will cut Pakistan's import bill. Boost in electricity demand. Increased NEV adoption could help reduce idle capacity payments, benefiting the national exchequer. 2. Benefits of the policy. Environmental. Reduction in vehicle emissions, contributing to better air quality and less smog. Economic. Lower fuel import expenses, improving the trade deficit. Enhanced demand for electricity could stabilize energy sector finances. 3. Challenges in implementation. Resistance from local auto industry. Established automobile manufacturers, accustomed to minimal innovation, fear a negative impact on sales. Concerns over the cost of upgrading facilities for NEV production. Policy delays. Powerful lobbies could derail the policy's implementation, as has happened with past reforms. 4. Recommendations for a smooth transition. Support for auto industry. Provide incentives to local manufacturers for upgrading production technologies to NEV standards. Strict timelines. Ensure that industry adaptation measures do not delay the policy's overall implementation. Public awareness and infrastructure development. Educate the public on the benefits of NEVs. Invest in charging stations and related infrastructure to encourage adoption. Protecting public interests. Balance the concerns of auto industry stakeholders against the broader environmental and economic benefits for the people. Crux. The government's new energy vehicle, NEV, policy aims to ensure that 30% of cars and 50% of motorcycles and three-wheelers sold by 2030 are electric, addressing climate change, reducing emissions, cutting oil imports, and optimizing electricity usage. However, challenges from entrenched automobile industry players demand careful handling to ensure smooth implementation.